countries that are food deficient, history has recorded, have been prone to coups and counter-coups and civil upheavals. And therefore, anybody attempting to jeopardize food production is inviting us as a country to go that direction. A hungry country, a hungry populace is a very, very dangerous populace. You cannot govern it. You cannot govern a hungry population. They can rise up against you anytime and overthrow you. So the Cabinet Secretary and his acolytes are directly responsible for attempting to subvert food production in this country. Honorable Speaker, can you imagine that the NCPB, and don't tell me that the CS doesn't get involved in the procurement by NCPB. That one you can tell the birds. Everybody who lives in this country knows how government works. The National Cereals and Produce Board is a government entity. It's a parastatal within the Ministry of Agriculture, under the supervision of the CS for Agriculture. How on earth did NCPB procure hundreds of thousands of bags of NPK fertilizer from a briefcase company? A briefcase company going by the name MEMS Distributors Limited. A company that has had no history of dealing with fertilizer. Then MEMS goes ahead and approaches Kale's Chemicals Limited to manufacture for it the fertilizer for its supply to NCPB. What happens? Kale's manufactures and supplies to MEMS only 69,000 bags of the NPK fertilizer, 10. But then what happens again? MEMS distributors proceeds to supply NCPB with over 400,000 bags. So the question is, where did MEMS distributors and NCPB get the extra hundreds of thousands of bags of this fertilizer? Where? From where? And then it turns out that these extra bags of fertilizer are the ones that were actually stones. What have you? Stones, gravel, sand, and donkey waste, I'm told. So somebody is basically sabotaging the very, very survival of this country. And the Cabinet Secretary cannot feign ignorance. Because if he feigns ignorance, then he is not fit to hold that office. Then he is unfit. Then he is incompetent. How? But then NCPB goes ahead and pays for this fertilizer, this fake fertilizer. I may call it air, because farmers would never use it anyway. NCPB rushes to pay for this fertilizer. It basically tells you that somebody powerful was pulling the strings behind the scenes. That is the point. Somebody even more powerful was pulling the strings behind the scenes. So the Cabinet Secretary cannot absolve himself from accountability on this matter. Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, even more intriguing, as we are told that investigations are being conducted by the relevant investigative agencies. And we are also being told here by my friend, the chairman of JLAC and Owen Bayer, that the Committee on Agriculture is also seized of the matter, that we wait for the outcome of their investigations or inquiries. And yet, NCPB goes ahead to decree that it is embarking on a scheme to compensate farmers who purchase the fake fertilizer. Then you ask yourself, where are they getting the money from? This House, to the best of my recollection, did not authorize any such expenditure. Did not. Where did NCPB get the authority and the money to compensate farmers? Yet, even before the investigations are complete, do we even know how much was this fake fertilizer as we speak? Do we know? We don't know. We don't know. Honorable Speaker, from what I know, and you know, my Honorable Speaker, I have a lot of information. From what I know is that what we are being told is just but the tip of the iceberg. When the full extent of this fertilizer scandal is exposed, you will be shocked. It will be worse than Goldenberg scandal. What we are being told is just but the tip of the iceberg. And the Honorable Speaker, in my capacity as leader of the MIO, this side, I am privy to a lot of information. In fact, information just comes to me. I don't go looking for information. And I've got a file for each of these ministers and the PSS. Let me tell you, even if this House attempts to allow Linturi to go scot-free, in the fullness of time, each and every person who is involved in this racket will have a date with their destiny.
Your time is up. I told you had 15 minutes. 30 seconds.
Let me just say that I support this motion, and I want to appeal to all my colleagues. Let's just send a message home, regardless of our political affiliation, today, by sending these CS home. That will actually earn us a lot of respect as an institution of parliament. Let's for once allow this process to get to the select committee to undertake proper investigation and inquiry at the hearings, Honorable Speaker. With those very many remarks, I support.
Mary Wamaua. I see you on the screen. You seem to be unprepared. Malulu Njendi, you've keyed in and you...
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I arise actually to oppose this motion. Mr. Speaker, as I oppose this motion, I also want to make it clear to the mover that persons who are opposing this motion are not of unsound mind, as he alleged in his moving remarks. He said persons who are opposing this motion have unsound mind. You said that, it's unanswered. So I want to confirm that I'm of a sound mind as I oppose this motion. Mr. Speaker, as I oppose this motion, it is simply because many times we have wanted to sacrifice people who are not really victims of what we want to sacrifice them for. I recall, Mr. Speaker, in Kakamega County, they also saw this fake fertilizer by the county government. Mr. Speaker, upon investigation, it was found that this fertilizer, as much as everyone was crying for the head of the governor, it was something fishy with the supplier, with the standards in the Kakamega County. Madam Speaker, personally, at all this, I'm looking at the role of the CEO of National Cereals and Produce Board. What is his role in this procurement? Mr. Speaker, I'm also asking myself, what is the role of Kenya Bureau of Standards? Mr. Speaker, these are the key bodies that were advising on what to be supplied and finally what was supplied in terms of standards. Mr. Speaker, I'm afraid that what is being alleged here, I have a feeling it could be something that is beyond what's on this floor, because most of us, as we arise to speak, as even raised by Honorable Bayer, we could be seeing more than what you're seeing on the floor of this House. It could be something that has gone wrong somewhere, maybe in a family line or something like that, that finally it has found itself on the floor. Mr. Speaker, this matter is under investigation. The CEO of the National Cereals and Produce Board has been arrested. So if we proceed, for example, now to impeach the minister or the CS, Mr. Speaker, personally, it to be that you have actually acted before the actual truth about this fertilizer has come out. I would that we we actually don't proceed with this motion so that we give time to the actual bodies that are entitled with investigations to investigate. They complete the process of investigation, takes this matter through, that finally when you have a report, then this matter can come on the floor of the House. Mr. Speaker, I'm also aware this matter is under the Agriculture Committee of the National Assembly, also the Agriculture Committee of the Senate. Mr. Speaker, I would that we let this matter, first of all, be processed by those respective committees, after which now we can proceed whether this CS is really criminal or this matter as alleged by the mover. Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, I oppose this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I start by stating on record that I support this motion, and if you look at the names of those members of parliament who have appended their signatures for the removal or initiation of the process of removal of this cabinet secretary, I am number 57. But Mr. Speaker, I want to just mention a few things. Number one, National Assembly, Mr. Speaker, has a responsibility, and this responsibility is given to us by the people of Kenya through the Constitution that we have today. Article 95, Mr. Speaker, 5 of the Constitution, and I want to read, gives the National Assembly the responsibility to review the conduct of in office of the President, the Deputy President, and other state officers, including cabinet secretaries, and initiates the process of removing them from office. So, Mr. Speaker, what we are embarking on today is one of those cardinal responsibilities given to National Assembly by the people of Kenya to review the conduct of a cabinet secretary, one Mithika Linturi, to hold office with a view to initiate the process of removing him. Madam Mr. Speaker, I want to plead with those members of parliament who think they want to save Mithika Linturi. If I were you, if you love this cabinet secretary, the more reason you should vote for this motion. Mr. Speaker, today we are not removing Mithika Linturi. By this motion, we are not removing Mithika Linturi. If you read, Mr. Speaker, Article 152 of the Constitution, which gives details of how to remove a cabinet secretary from office, it states that if a motion, it states that a member of the National Assembly, like Honorable Jack Wamboka has done, supported by at least 1/4 of all the members of the Assembly, may propose a motion requiring the President to dismiss a cabinet secretary. That is the motion we are dealing with today. And the grounds are stated. But Mr. Speaker, the same article goes ahead to mention that if this motion is supported by at least 1/3 this morning of the members of the National Assembly, then the Assembly shall appoint a select committee comprising of 11 of its members to investigate the matter. Mr. Speaker, if you look at the document presented to us by Honorable Wamboka, the only way justice can be done to this cabinet secretary is for this House to push this matter forward so that a select committee of this House will have an opportunity to look at the details as presented. How else, Mr. Speaker, will we even know that this telephone call was made by Honorable Mithika Linturi if we don't give to appoint a select committee to go and scrutinize, get to the bottom of these details, and bring a report to us? If they find that these matters are not substantiated, if the committee shall find that these matters are not properly substantiated, then the matter will end there. The committee will report back to the House and the matter will die. But if the matters will have been found to have been substantiated, then this House will proceed to take another vote, Mr. Speaker, where even before we take the vote, we will present Honorable Mithika Linturi with an opportunity to address this parliament and defend himself. That is the time we will know that he is innocent or is not innocent. But stopping this process at this stage would be reckless, would be careless, and would demonstrate a house that does not know its responsibility. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to also add that it is not just on grounds of gross violation of the provisions of this Constitution that you would initiate a process of removing a cabinet secretary. It is not only on the grounds of where serious reasons of believing that the cabinet secretary has committed a crime under the national or international law that a process like this would be initiated. This process would even be initiated if we have a reason to believe that there is gross misconduct on the part of the cabinet secretary. And Mr. Speaker, based on the evidence that Honorable Amboka has presented to this House, and particularly I'm concerned about the issues of National Cereals and Produce Board. Mr. Speaker, the first question that I would ask those who want to oppose this motion, are you telling us that National Cereals and Produce Board would go ahead with the budgetary provision given by this House as proposed by the Cabinet Secretary, presented to us? We give out money. This money goes and buys cocoa instead of fertilizer, given to our farmers, and only whistleblowers are able to know. Yet we have a ministry which has a cabinet secretary heading that ministry, and that cabinet secretary is ignorant. But Mr. Speaker, what worries me more is the evidence that is produced before us through a letter that is written by a lawyer, Ahmed Nasir Mohammed. And clearly, Ahmed Nasir is telling us that Mithika Linturi even attempted to subvert justice by trying to dictate or order this particular factory to go and issue a statement. And the evidence is there. The telephone number is there. Calls were made. Safaricom can confirm the same. And that is why I want to plead with this House, Mr. Speaker, that this is a matter that we cannot treat casually. This is a matter of hunger. It is a matter of food. It is a matter of food security in this country. It is a matter that can bring this country to anarchy, as the minority leader said. We must show responsibility. You are elected by your people to come and speak for them. They don't have a voice. They cannot talk to Mithika Linturi. It is you who can speak to Mithika Linturi. It is you who can speak to William Ruto, who appointed Mithika Linturi. And when these cabinet secretaries were appointed, Mr. Speaker, I remember saying that this is going to go in the records of history as the most incompetent cabinet. And you can already see that some people are protecting, Mr. Speaker, Mithika Linturi and claiming that he was ignorant of what was happening in National Cereals and Produce Board. Mr. Speaker, if Mr. Linturi can be ignorant of what is happening at the National Cereals and Produce Board, then what can he be ignorant about? This is an incompetent...
Honorable Mbadi, there's a point of order.
Mr. Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order number 83, as read together with Standing Order number 91, on the accuracy of information that is being provided by my very good friend, the Honorable Mbadi. Mr. Speaker, is it in order for the Member of Parliament, for the nominated Member of Parliament to claim that he had already made up his mind from the time the Cabinet Secretaries were nominated or appointed that they were incompetent, so that his information that he had at that time, which he never gave us in the House, when we were approving Mithika Linturi, is it in order, Mr. Speaker, for somebody to redact information which we thought he had or which he thinks he should have had? The accuracy of his information, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker, is in fact one thing. He is alleging that, in fact, the conduct of the president is not at issue here. In fact, if he wants to bring a substantive motion with the issue of the conduct, he should not mention the president. He is not part of the motion that is in. The motion is in the House is with regard to the Honorable Mithika Linturi, who was his colleague in the 13th Parliament. Mr. Speaker, is it in order for him to claim that he had this information but he never gave to the House? That is very misleading, Mr. Speaker.
Body wind up.
Mr. Speaker, you know, Honorable Chepkonga could be older than me by age, but he is not older than me in this House, and I don't know why he's resting so early. You still have time to be here, so don't rust. Please just remain active, focused on what I say. Mr. Speaker, I was reminding the President, we are appealing to the President as the appointing authority. That is what we are doing here. The President has to remove this cabinet secretary from office. We are speaking to him. We are telling him this is one of your incompetent cabinet secretaries. Please hear us. Listen to us. I said this when these cabinet secretaries were being approved. It is on record. I even use words that I don't want to repeat today. So, Mr. Speaker, what I'm saying in a nutshell, Mr. Speaker, as I wind up, I want to plead with this House. Please allow this motion to go through so that we can appoint a select committee of 11 members to interrogate this matter, look at it into details, look at the evidence adduced, so that if there is no evidence, we will let Linturi continue running the ministry. If there is evidence, let us get him out, get another Kenyan.
Speaking about and the person he seeks to remove from office. Indeed, in his own submission, Honorable Speaker, he has alluded to issues touching on procurement and distribution of fertilizer by the National Serious. Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Jack Wamboka is not an ordinary member of Parliament. The Honorable Jack Wamboka, and congratulations to him, is duty like we do to oversight government and the executive, Honorable Speaker. And we must allow our media houses to help us to raise issues that are also of concern to the people of Kenya, just like we raise. But media houses cannot be the basis, Honorable Speaker, in line with our own the sport for harassing witnesses that appear before him. Talk of town has landed the chairman calls cabinet secretaries scheduled to appear before his committee and demands huge amounts of money in order to be looked at favorably when they appear. The CSAs were heard complaining that the MP is demanding and asks for money using threats at least 1 week before they appear in his committee. Those who fail to play ball by parting with cash demand are harassed during their appearance, and negative reports are given on their manifesto. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Speaker,
Member for Busia, you are total out of order to stand up and raise your hands. Order.
Honorable Speaker, I read this article because I am the issue of us using newspaper articles, media reports to impeach state and public